My values are something that I revisit over and over. It's intentional self-reflection. I like to do a values check-in every 90 days or so. It's about that consistency. There are benefits of self-reflection.
Welcome to You Belong in the C-Suite podcast. You are ambitious in life and in your career, but something is missing. You want to bring more of your passion to what you do. Because let's be honest, you pour a ton into your work, and it needs to mean more. I'm your host, Laura Eigel. I'm a mom, wife, PhD, coach, advocate, introvert, and indoor rowing fanatic. I'm passionate about living a life that's in line with my values. We'll give you the actionable tips and tools you need to lead with your values, make a difference, and have career success. The world needs more diversity and authenticity in the top jobs at organizations. Your leadership belongs there. You belong in the C-Suite. What gets you up in the morning? What drives your decisions? What do you stand for? No idea, not even sure where to start? I use my values to guide my life and career. It's the basis of how I've built boundaries for myself and stuck to them. Are you ready to dig into what matters to you? Go to thecatchgroup.com to download your free values worksheet. That's thecatchgroup.com to download your free values worksheet to get to your core values and take action on what matters most.
Welcome to this week's episode of the You Belong in the C-Suite podcast. I'm really excited about our topic today on intentional self-reflection. Let's get started. We are almost at the end of this quarter. For some, that may mean that is halfway through your company's fiscal year. For others, that may mean the end of your fiscal year. But either way, it's a great time for reflection on what's working and what's not working. In episode 1 of this podcast, I revealed the one thing that's helped me in my career the most, and that's knowing myself, specifically knowing what I value. My values are family, growth, development, achievement, advocacy, and balance. But it isn't just about knowing what my values are. It's how I use them to create boundaries in my work and life, how I spend my time, and how I prioritize things. My husband and I have a date or like this working session at the beginning of every year to plan out our goals for the year. Yes, we are those people. My sister makes fun of us for that. So it probably isn't a shock that I like to plan for self-reflection throughout the year. My values are something that I revisit over and over. It's intentional self-reflection. I like to do a values check-in every 90 days or so. It's about that consistency. There are benefits of self-reflection. In an article called How Self-Reflection Gives You a More Happier and Successful Life, which we will link to in the show notes, the author describes the benefits that you can get from intentional self-reflection. Some of these include improved self-awareness, the ability to get perspective, giving time to respond and not react, getting a deeper level of learning. You know, this idea of thinking about learning, you actually learn better and retain more of what you learned. And then also improving your confidence. There's also downfalls for not doing this type of reflection. One, you just kind of keep going and going and going. You keep doing the thing that is the most urgent. You keep doing the thing that you usually do, whether that may be the best thing for you or not. Second, you might be doing things for others that aren't aligned to your values, or you're doing things aligned to other people's values, the company you work for, a friend you're trying to hang out with. And 3, you just keep adding to your list, rarely dropping things that aren't working, but piling on instead. And you don't realize how bad it is until you're burned out and exhausted. I like to do intentional self-reflection for a lot of reasons, but here's a few. First, to make sure that I'm doing the things that are in line with my values. Am I spending my time in the right way? Second, making sure that those values are still even important to me. Have they changed? Is one more important than another one right now? And last, are there any other gaps that I need to focus on more than others and redirect my actions for the next 90 days? This idea of 90-day increments also feels more approachable, flexible, and attainable too. Nothing is set in stone. It's not a right or a wrong. It's what's working or not working right now and what I can do to make it work better and have a more fulfilled life. So, how do I do my self reflection? I'll walk you through it. First, I intentionally schedule the time for it. I like to do my values check in every 90 days or so. So, for 30 minutes, I have it scheduled in my calendar, and I usually do it in the morning when I'm thinking clearly. I write down my values like in a list, and I answer the following question: how is that value showing up in my life? So, like behaviorally, what does it actually look like? How am I spending my time on it? And then I answer another question about that. How do I feel about that? So, how do I feel about how it's showing up in my life? And the last thing I do is I celebrate or recalibrate. So, let me walk you through a couple of examples. So, for my value of balance, for me, which means kind of being centered, taking time for my introverted self, what it looks like, how it's showing up in my life. It's showing up in my life by spending time every morning doing indoor rowing. And I spend some time in the morning before the workday and I row 4,000 meters, which doesn't take super long, like 15 or 20 minutes. And in the afternoon, I cap off my work by putting in my fake commute, like that transition time, for a walk outside. And while I'm walking outside, I usually listen to my favorite podcast, which right now happens to be Dateline, true crime podcast, listening to stories about people who've gotten murdered as I walk through miles. Yeah, that's balance for me. That's how it's showing up right now. So I just wrote about how's it showing up. Then I have answered, how do I feel about that? In this instance, I feel really good about it. I've been walking and I've been rowing on weekends and weekdays almost every single day. So I'm going to celebrate that. And I'm going to celebrate that consistently. That's amazing, that consistency. And to celebrate that, I bought a new pair of rowing gloves, which I'm super excited about. Another example is my value of family. Well, we're all still here at the house, spending a ton of time together, working from home, virtual school, all the things. And in general, it's really great. However, I will tell you that I feel like I've been on my phone way too much. I reviewed my screen time on my phone and I was shocked to see the time spent on some of these apps. And how did I feel about that? I didn't like it. I feel like it was a literal waste of time away from my family or reading or other things. So after that review, you may realize that you need to take a different action or create a new boundary, recalibrate something. So for me, I recalibrated by deleting some apps on my phone. And now I'm more aware of my screen time, especially at night. This exercise is a simple way to practice intentional self-reflection and check in on what matters most to you. It doesn't take long and it isn't cumbersome. This exercise is also a great thing to chat with your manager or mentor, family member, friend, or partner with too. I can definitely see 2 glasses of wine in a conversation with my husband in the near future after I finish my values check-in. I'm going to challenge you to do some intentional self-reflection too. Check in with your values. Check in with you. I'll be coming on the podcast again with this topic as a prompt for you to have this intentional self-reflection several times a year. And I'd love for you to join the You Belong in the C-Suite community to get a free copy of the Values Check-In worksheet and start your intentional self-reflection of your values today. You'll get an email each week with actionable tools and content to help you live the life of your values and make the difference you want to make in life and work. Go to the banner at the top of our website, thecatchgroup.com, to join the community. The world needs more diversity and authenticity at work. Your leadership belongs there. You belong in the C-suite. That wraps up today's episode. Thanks so much for listening.
I want to thank you so much for listening to the You Belong in the C-Suite podcast. If you are enjoying this content, then be sure to subscribe to the podcast so that you don't miss a show. Editing and support for this podcast is from SNE Podcast Management. To get more tips and tools to help you live a life guided by your values, go to thecatchgroup.com. Keep your boundaries and take care.